Hello again, everyone. As normal, I'll just wait for this to go out there a little bit and give it a little bit of time for you all to get notifications that we're live. Hope everyone's doing well. So for this one, we're going to review the Rockets series, me and Jonathan are. And he is quite a regular guest nowadays. Adam, I see you're in here as you normally are. It's been nice to actually get a little bit of sleep. We've got until, in between Friday and Saturday to get a little bit of sleep, which is quite nice. I was flagging a little bit, I'm not going to lie. All them early morning starts are a bit of a killer. Thanks for everyone for joining. I hope you're all doing well. Just quickly before I do start, I'm not repping a Lakers jersey today. I'm repping a Baseline Leeds jersey. So for everyone that knows, I'm obviously from the UK, you can probably tell by my accent, but I'm from a place called Leeds in the north of England, and they're a small independent store, basketball store in the north of Leeds. So do check out their stuff. They do sell jerseys, they sell all sorts of basketball collectibles, NBA collectibles. Have a good look. There's a lot of good stuff on there. Go and follow them over at Baseline Leeds on Instagram. Also, Baseline Leeds over on Twitter as well. So yeah, go and check them out. Right, so let's get Jonathan in here now. It's got a few questions about quickly before I do get Jonathan in. We're not actually going to speak about the who the Western Conference Finals matchup is going to be. We're going to actually do a little bit of a preview probably on Thursday, I think. So, but there's a few things here which I'll address. So I want the Nuggets to beat the Clippers Game 7. I'm very happy. We've got J3 Pointer saying, and then I've also got a question from YKTV Cody saying Denver going to win, hopefully. Yeah, I mean, we are hoping that Denver are going to win that Game 7. They did incredibly well in the game last night, especially the comeback that they had. I think I saw somewhere that the Clippers have been outscored by like 30, 35 points in the last two fourth quarters in the past two games. So, you do have to think that it could be in Denver's favour going into that Game 7. But even if the Clippers win it, that'll be an incredible series. And I do believe the Lakers can beat them. I think it'd be very, very tough. But the Lakers definitely have the right tools. So that's the last we're going to speak about the Clippers or Denver, hopefully, unless Jonathan behaves himself. But let's get him in. Thanks again for joining, everyone. Right, so here he is. How are you doing, mate?
Man, you okay?
Yeah, doing good. You're representing there, aren't you?
Western Conference Finals, baby.
Right, what we're going to do is I normally do a little bit of an introduction before I get you in, but I'll do the introduction whilst you're on here. It's just better for sound quality for the guys that listen on the podcast. So yeah, thanks for joining, everyone. So welcome to the Late Late Show once again. In this episode, I'm here with Jonathan, as you can see below to them watching live. We're doing a Rockets series review, and then probably towards the back end of the week, Thursday, we're going to be doing a Western Conference Finals preview. So yeah, we'll jump straight into this one. So the last time me and Jonathan spoke was a mid-series review because there was a lot going on. We didn't really plan on it, but we decided to go with it. At that point, the Lakers were 2-1 up in the series. They went on and won the last two games to round out the series 4-1 and progressed to the Western Conference Finals for the first time in 10 years. That 2010 championship winning season, that was. It's quite nice to say that. So I'll start off by asking you, mate, what did you make of games 4 and 5 since we last spoke, and the series as a whole, really?
we were definitely starting to get into the series and kind of games 2 and 3, but 4 and 5 we would just blew them out of the water. Like I know the score for game 4 probably doesn't represent like how dominant we were the entire game, like being 110, 100, but that could have easily been like genuinely could have been easy like a 30, 40 point win. We were that dominant on both ends of the floor. Like all of our rotation players were firing all cylinders. We didn't even need kind of LeBron and AD to really step up in both games. We just had them kind of playing about 70% and we're still dominating. Like the likes of, and I have to give them credit, the likes of like Danny Green and KCP and Alex Caruso really have stepped up. And Marquis Morris as well, actually. He's been huge. All of the role guys have really stepped up and really kind of made themselves kind of known. It's perfect because now we go into kind of the finals realizing that we have a team that's hitting on all fronts. And yeah, we absolutely dominated this series from probably game 3 onwards. Game 2 was a bit of a fist fight, and game 1 obviously was game 1. But yeah, we dominated from most of the series like we did in the last series. And we hopefully just in the next series we don't start off so slow. We kind of come out of the gates as fast as we possibly can, and just get into the finals. But yeah, delighted with how things are going so far.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll speak about a few players a little bit more in depth as we continue. But yeah, I mean, the series as a whole, I think Marquis Morris entering that starting lineup was huge. You know, we were more agile defensively. We went small but maintained size. We did actually speak about that in the series preview. And it just sped up. Well, we were able to keep the speed whilst, you know, rotating defensively as well, which is really important. You know, with the hard doubles on Harden, which were just every single time. But it worked, you know. And yeah, I mean, I've been taking like a few notes as I kind of went through the series, really. And you know, the defensive rotations were solid. We played zone defense as well. You know, Westbrook was just isolated. He was just so bad that the Lakers just didn't really bother with him. It was like they were playing with one less player on the court. I mean, he did light up a few times, but he was part of the Rockets just essentially folding, really, and the Lakers just absolutely erupting to that gentleman's sweep. So yeah, I thought the first half of game 4 was incredible, but that slip up in the fourth was a little bit worrying. I think when we don't have our defense set, we don't seem to fire offensively. They seem to work hand in hand. Game 5 was just cruise control domination. You know, Frank Vogel and the Lakers coaching staff ultimately chose to out-rocket the Rockets by going small. You know, credit to them. A lot of people didn't really think that they would make the adjustments in, you know, clutch moments, but you know, they made the right adjustments and they opted away from that traditional big man rotation. And yeah, so that's really all I have until we like dig in a little bit deeper with particular players. But yeah, very impressive. I think it was another series that a lot of people thought, well, not a lot of people, but a lot of the media were expecting to be a very hard fought series, and the Lakers, you know, like I said before, gentleman's sweep. It looked relatively comfortable against a very solid team and superstar in James Harden.
I think to a certain extent, the media have been pretty unfair because in the Portland series, they're like, "Oh, the Lakers, this is going to be their biggest test to date." Like, there's Damian Lillard is on fire. You can't possibly beat him like this. To be fair, apart from game 1, we pretty much handled them fairly easily in the first series, and then it comes again, and it's like they've never came across like another kind of like small ball that it's going to destroy the Lakers because they can't adapt. We showed we adapt to what they were doing, and we beat them fairly handily as well. And the thing was, there's like, James Harden is probably one of the most offensively gifted players in like recent memory in the league. And I was like, yeah, but he's not unbeatable. And what we did, we scheduled kind of, okay, we're going to throw doubles on him any chance we can get to kind of force the ball out of his hands. Force into Westbrook, which I thought was going to happen all series, and Westbrook kind of be their downfall. To a certain extent, the entire Houston offensive line offense kind of let them down because they just weren't really firing. Like, they wanted PJ Tucker to be one of their kind of key guy shooting from the corners. Didn't really do that much because of our defensive kind of discipline. they wanted to kind of try and get like Eric Gordon going again, and we just kind of stayed in front of our guys. The first and second game we kind of shot ourselves in the foot. We realized, okay, we're doubling everyone. Like, we don't need to. They have talented players on their squad. I'm not going to argue that. But the only player that really needs to be doubled that entire series is James Harden, and we just became ridiculously disciplined and kind of stuck to our guns. And I think it's like, even now after all this, the media are like, oh, the Rockets were just a shell of them former selves. Like, that's not fair to say. The Rockets are still the Rockets. They still have two ridiculously good players. Like, we crap all over Westbrook, but he's still like a guy that's capable of averaging like maybe 30 points a game quite easy if he's number one option on the team. And Harden's like, he's an MVP candidate. Like, it's very funny how they're all running it back now after the series is done, and after the Lakers are after kind of kicking two teams' asses. Like, I want to see. Part of me wants to kind of, like, the Lakers to hear all of that negativity and just kind of absorb it in and be like, okay, they're constantly going to write us off every chance they can possibly get. And that's the best thing you can do to players like LeBron James. Like, even if you watch like The Last Dance, anytime someone kind of pissed off Jordan or kind of wrote him off, that's when he played the best, and that's when he played the hardest, and that's when
he just erupted,
and they just erupt. And that's all we can ask for, is them keep kind of talking crap about the Lakers, keep kind of doubting us, because every time you doubt us, we're going to come even stronger.
Yeah, I think as a whole, especially to play zone defense the way they did, just shows that it's a very mature, established team that was able to stay so rigid, because that isn't easy as well, especially every single time Harden passed it out of the double team, to be absolutely rotating around with as much pace as the Lakers were. I think as a whole, just to round it up, I think like the Lakers were just stronger, faster, and just better and just more talented. And that resulted in the 4-1 series victory. And let's dig into a few stats here. So I've got the series stats, how all the players performed. So obviously LeBron James is top in points with 25.8 points. Anthony Davis was just behind him in 25.4 points throughout the Houston series. Anthony Davis's rebounds shot up to 12.4 on average over the course of the 5 games. LeBron also had 10.4 rebounds. He also had 7.4 assists. So a little bit less than the Portland series, but it was much of a team effort. In terms of third with points, it was Kyle Kuzma with 11.2. His defense was outstanding throughout the series. It's quite surprisingly, over the course of the series, he did have a minus 1.8 plus minus, which is quite surprising to see. But yeah, incredible. He shot 56.1% from the field, which is very good efficiency, very good conversion rate there. Rajon Rondo, the man of the series, playoff Rondo, had 10.6 points. He had 4.6 rebounds and 7 assists per game. He had 5.4 plus minus. He actually, this is surprisingly high. He shot 44.4% from 3 over the course of the series. 51.2% from the field. A few more for you here. Danny Green, as Jonathan mentioned then, we did get a bit of a hit back from him in this series, and we have done throughout the playoffs. But in the Portland series, he was a bit cold. But in this series, he shot 42% from the field and also 42% from 3-point. So, that's pretty much Danny Green doing what Danny Green is supposed to do. Credit to him for firing back after all the criticism. I think the last one that I'll mention here, I think the man of the series was Marquis Morris. He had 8.6 points, 3.2 rebounds, 2.4 defensive rebounds is what it was. 1 assist. He led the team in plus minus with 9. He also led the team in offensive rating with 122.7, and he led the team in defensive rating 101, whilst shooting 41% from 3-point land. And that is a perfect segue into the first player that we're going to speak about, which is Marquis Morris. So what did you think about him? I mean, obviously, him being thrown into the starting 5 in game 4, literally half an hour before before the game, the last possible moment that Vogel could have made that adjustment to his roster and announce it to the world, he did. He played his cards very close to his chest there to get Morris in, and it really paid off, not just in that game, but in Game 5 as well.
No, he truly was the X factor for this series. Like, obviously, this is a series where I had a very strong feeling JaVale would struggle, because I don't think he had the necessary foot speed to kind of stay in front of a bunch of basically small and power forwards. And it kind of showed in Game 1 and to a certain extent in Game 2. But yeah, it was the right adjustment for them to make, to bring Marquis into the lineup. He is above all else, he can stretch the floor for us, which is very, very important against a team like the Houston Rockets. He was able to grab rebounds and play actually, one of the main things he did that was kind of subtle, but it was impactful. He was just nearly a brawler. He just came in there and he was throwing himself around the paint a bit and just kind of getting in people's faces. But that's exactly what you need in kind of a playoff setting. People are going to try and enforce their will onto you, and if you can kind of bully them around a bit, that works perfectly. But yeah, he's incredible this series. It's going to be very interesting to see if he starts the next series. But yeah, he was brilliant against the Rockets. He was really kind of, I would say, outside of, well, there's a few guys who've done amazingly, but yeah, he's one of the main guys who was kind of the key to this series. And yeah, I kind of hope he continues on in a starting role next series, but I'm not that confident.
Yeah, I think one thing which made this series so impressive was the fact that the Lakers adjusted. And I think, obviously we won't speak about it too much, but whoever wins out of the Clippers and Denver will force, well, they're very similar kind of setups, but it'll force another adjustment. And I think that'll be a traditional big man rotation. But in the games before he went into the starting lineup, Marquis was doing incredibly well off the bench. I can't remember which game it was. Was it Game 2? I think it was, where he hit 4 straight 3-pointers in that first quarter. For 12 points. He ended up with 16 points there, and he also scored 16 points in the final game in Game 5. I think, like you said, he spreads the floor, but he also allows the Lakers to operate and rotate efficiently defensively as well. Just like, he gave the Lakers another pair of quick feet. And with JaVale McGee being 7 foot, with Dwight Howard being as big as he is and centre-like as they are, obviously, they just lack in that area. But as well, Morris has like the large frame. He covered the perimeter well. He contested shots well. And he was able to stand strong in the paint when needed as well. So he was just a very good dynamic player for the Lakers in this one. And we said in the preview that the Lakers would have to avoid adapting to the Rockets and maybe try and find a little bit. That was in like fully fledged adapting to the Rockets, but we urged them before all these games to try and find a little bit of a hybrid. And I think Morris was that perfect component to that hybrid by going small, but also maintaining the values of, rotating well on defense, getting out in transition, getting outside looks whilst also dominating in the paint. I thought that he was a really key component, and also as well to grab the rebound and get out in transition. He had 4 rebounds through games 2 and 5, which was up on his 3.2 rebounds in the regular season whilst with the Lakers. He was a fantastic decision from Vogel and co to bring him into the starting lineup. And another player I'd like to bring up is Taylor Horton-Tucker, who saw minutes in Game 4 and Game 5. I'll dig into the stats a little bit later. I'll let you speak about him first. So what did you think of his playoff debut and a very valuable 10 minutes that he played in Game 5 as well?
Absolutely. First of all, shout out to the South Bay Lakers. Like, they did a fantastic job kind of developing him over the course of this last year. Like, when we drafted him, he just seemed very, very raw, and he spent the vast majority of the year with the South Bay Lakers, kind of jumping to and from with the Lakers. But yeah, they seem to develop him leaps and bounds. He just seems like a very confident, young man. I think he's 19 years old, but he just seems like nothing phases him. He came into these games and just went at kind of Harden and Russell Westbrook straight away. There was no like hesitation. Where
second youngest player in the NBA.
Yeah, unbelievable. You expect like a player of his age to maybe like we all expected to not see him at all this series or even in the playoffs whatsoever. But it shows kind of the level of confidence and kind of the level of his work ethic that like the likes of Frank Vogel and all have in him. Like they're willing to kind of throw him into the deep end, even though what we were kind of up like good few points. It shows kind of okay, we believe in Taylor Horton Tucker. We know what he's capable of doing. He's a similar body to what most of the Rockets have. So they just threw him in kind of the deep, and he just kind of he rose to the top and kind of in parts he kind of destroyed them. Like it was in limited minutes, but like he was getting to the basket at will. He was kind of getting himself in really good kind of spots around the 3-point line. His defense against like Russell Westbrook was iffy, but that's to be expected. Like you're guarding an all-star caliber guy, you're not going to kind of lock him up as a rookie. Like most rookies are sitting on the bench during like a playoff run, but he did his best. But yeah, he showed a good shooting stroke. He showed that he was very comfortable around the rim. Yeah, so really happy for him.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of the stats, he played 7 minutes in game 4. He had 5 points on 2 of 5 shooting, 1 of 3 from 3-point range. So it wasn't incredible shooting night for him, very, very average. But the confidence that he showed in them looks, I think one of them was obviously a 3-pointer. Another one was a very aggressive drive to the rim, where he was really forceful and showed his strength that he holds through his very unique body type, really. And then it was game 5 that was the most impressive. He had 9 points in 10 minutes, 4 of 7 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3-point. He has 3 rebounds as well. Just a very, very confident set of performances from a rookie, second youngest in the NBA, like we mentioned. And I just think that number one, we were praising Vogel for the rotations and bringing in Marquis. But I also think that a lot of praise has to be given to him with putting Horton Tucker in, because it seemed like if there was one player that the Rockets didn't scout, or if there's one player that maybe they didn't scout a lot or were expecting to come into the game, it was Horton Tucker. And to just throw him in and completely bamboozle the Rockets and thinking, oh God, who's this kid? Let alone that this kid can play. You know, we've seen him with South Bay. He's an incredible talent. I think he's quite clearly better than the G League. I think he will be on the roster next season and will have a rotation spot. I don't know how big that will be. He looks a very intriguing prospect, but he is very raw at the same time. There are a few little fundamentals that he needs to get under his belt, but if he can perfect that strong drive to the rim, and he can get a bit of an outside shot going, which he's definitely showing capabilities of doing. He really does look I'm not going to go out and say he's going to be an all-star or anything, or he's going to be like an unbelievable player. I think we need to stop doing that, and ever since the rebuild, fans have stopped doing that. But just let him go through the process. If he turns into a solid role piece, which he looks like he could do, he could develop into a very useful player for the Lakers moving forward, not just next season, but beyond.
Yeah. No, definitely. There is definitely a lot of room for improvement. I don't see all-star ability there. I could kind of agree with you there. But yeah, he has all the makings of a really, really good rotational piece, like potentially even starter eventually. But like if he's playing this well at 19, like if 22, 23, 24, he could be a really, really interesting prospect for the Lakers, or a really kind of interesting rotational piece or starting piece for them. But yeah, he has great potential, young guy. But I completely agree with you. He absolutely kind of had the Rockets on skates. They really didn't know what to do with him, because I guarantee you, him and probably like the likes of K-Cock, they had no way. Like I know K-Cock didn't see much minutes or any minutes at all. They just weren't expecting that guy, and he just showed up and kind of just to a mini extent dominated. Not dominated like the likes of LeBron or AD, but in his own sort of way, he dominated.
Yeah, he lit up and certainly brought a not just a scoring punch, but he was perfect in terms of that small ball setup. If it was a few years on, probably would have had a much more prominent role in that series. But we'll move on to the next player. Obviously, we speak about this player a lot, but we just can't stop. And the Lakers world just can't stop praising him, and it's incredible how his journey and how well he has come along and how much of an impact he has had in these very, very important playoff games against solid teams. And that's Alex Caruso. So again, I'll give you the floor with Alex Caruso. He did impress throughout the series, especially late on, especially in Game 5. What did you think? What did you make of Alex Caruso against the Rockets?
Alex Caruso is just like we've seen it for the last 2 years, but he's just a breath of fresh air. Like, he is the epitome of what you call the glue guy in the NBA. One of these players who just comes into the kind of rotation or comes into the team, and players and coaching staff and fans alike just all love him. Like, he's just like a really lovable player. He just works his ass off. That's all. Like, he's limited to a certain extent, offensively. Like, he's never going to be I doubt very much he's going to be like a 15 or 20 point scorer. He'll be like a low kind of 7, 8, 9, 10 points a game as maximum. But
that's fine.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine with me. As long as he's busting his ass on the defensive end, kind of interrupting the likes of James Harden and all these players getting into their flow. That's all we can ask from him. Like, he's gonna jump on the ball anytime there's the ball squirts free. He's gonna try and steal the ball as often as he can. And the chase down block in the last game, that was just the epitome of
unbelievable.
Yeah, you're just like, this is like, you can ask nothing more of the guy. That possession was easily gone, and he could have easily been just like a layup or a dunk. But he came out absolutely nowhere and just pinned it to the backboard like LeBron would. And that's all you want from a guy like him, is just bust your ass, try as hard as you possibly can, do whatever you can on the court that you're physically capable of doing. Get a few assists, like if you're playing kind of the point guard position, make a few, hit a few 3-pointers. That's all you can ask from him. And he's done everything we've ever asked from him, especially this series, and really stood up. Like, he will never be a true star. We can never put that on him where he's going to say, oh, he's like one of the best players like on our team. But he's just a guy who's going to work really hard for you and kind of give us all for our team. He's like it's like a Derek Fisher role. Derek Fisher was never the most talented on the squad, but he was just a leader and a guy who just worked hard to get where he was. And that's what I can see Alex Caruso being, as like our Derek Fisher, where he just works his ass off, has the respect of all of his teammates and coaching staff, and is loved by the fans.
Yeah, definitely. I think we spoke about this previously, but he's the epitome of like being a star in
your role.
In the role, that he's got. There was 2 blocks in Game 5. There was a chase down block, and there was a block on the perimeter, which you never see in the NBA. It's very rare. But the play was gone. I think, if I remember, he either got sidestepped or he ran past the play, and then just has the player, I don't know who the player was for the Rockets, but as it rose up for the 3-point shot, he came back and just tipped the ball out of his hands, which was an incredible play. And also as well, after obviously there was a chase down rejection on Harden, but also as well, in Game 4, there was the play with Harden in transition where Harden got the ball, was going to the rim strong, and Caruso kind of looked ahead, planted his feet, backtracked, was in Harden's path. And then he put his hands up, like big man, like both of his hands up directly in the air. He didn't jump, he just made his presence known vertically. Harden, they made contact, and then it ended up being a turnover, and the Lakers got the ball back. And again, it's just the little things. It's the little things. And he's such an athletic player when he looks like he really shouldn't be at all. But also offensively, he hit big in, I think it was Game 4 twice a game at the end. That was when we had the big first half, and then they fought back in the final quarter. Just as it looked like they were really getting into a rhythm, he hit a massive 3 to put the Lakers forward. And then the very next play, he got the steal, which set up the Rondo LeBron off the back alley-oop dunk as well. So literally single-handedly handed the Lakers the win in that one. In that game, he ended up having 16 points. But in game one, I know it was a loss. He did have a 14-point performance, so he did show off that he could score. And across the course of the series, he did shoot 41% from 3-point range, and that was on 3.4 attempts per game as well. And every single time he got to the line, he converted 100% conversion rate.
Another great thing I realized, like we all kind of jokingly say like Caruso's the GOAT. Like everyone says that it's kind of like it's like a meme at this stage. Yeah. I guarantee you, to a certain extent, the likes of like Damian Lillard in the previous series, and CJ McCollum, and then kind of Westbrook and Harden in this series, they're probably seeing all them jokes and was like, oh, Caruso's a bit of a joke. He's just kind of the token white guy that's on the team that's gonna occasionally play and kind of do okay. I guarantee you they remember his name now. I guarantee they realize, oh crap, this guy is for real. Like, he gave Harden problems this entire series, and he did a pretty good job of locking up Lillard in the previous series. Like, he's never going to be like a defensive stopper like Marcus Smart or Ben Simmons, or he's never going to be like a versatile defender like Giannis Antetokounmpo or Anthony Davis. But he's going to play his part and work as hard as he possibly can. If he can outwork you, that's all he cares about. Because like he knows that there's plenty of players that are more talented than him. But as long as he can outwork you and kind of make your life difficult, he'll do that. And that's all we need from him ever going forward.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of them grit and grind players in the NBA anymore, especially in the guard position. It's all about 3-point shooters now and being flashy handles and things like that. But yeah, incredible in his role. And I was speaking to, shout out to Misha, who's the strength and conditioning coach at South Bay. And he was working with Caruso for many years when he was at South Bay. And also shout out to Nick, the director of basketball operations at South Bay as well. I've spoken to both of them quite a few times. And they were like, I think in the contact that they had with the Lakers prior to Caruso being a fully fledged piece of the rotation, they were saying, like, just be patient with him. Like, he's exactly what you need. And because when he was coming up with the Lakers, remember, it's not always been, he's not always just jumped straight to the stars. He did struggle very early on with the Lakers when he was on a 2-way deal. And I think now we're seeing what Nick and Misha mean. They must have seen his potential back then with South Bay. Like, again, like, if you're scoring 30-odd points at South Bay, when you go to the NBA, you're not going to get the same looks. You're not going to score 30-odd points. And I think that's where Caruso transitioned over to the NBA a lot better than most. Because don't get me wrong, he scored like 15 points a game, whatever it was for South Bay. But his game just transitioned perfectly over. He wasn't a player that was expected to get a lot of looks. He didn't in the G League. He's just an out-and-out hustler. And it really is, there's not enough words that can describe the impact he has on this team. He's absolutely pivotal to the success of the team. And I was looking at the statistics earlier, probably fed up with statistics, everyone listening, but he's actually leading the Lakers in defensive rating throughout the entire playoffs at the moment. And of that team obviously includes Anthony Davis, who many think should be the Defensive Player of the Year, which is incredible on such a star-studded roster.
Yeah, and again, we really have to give a shout out to the South Bay Lakers. Like, they have worked with so many young players the Lakers have drafted over the years and really brought them up to like a really good level of play. Like, look at they've gotten a ridiculous amount of Lakers paid. Like, the likes of Thomas Bryant is getting seriously paid, and he was like, they really worked like significantly with him over the time.
Jordan Clarkson was there as well.
Clarkson, absolute beast. And even likes of like Devontae Kaycock now and Costas, like they are molding them along with the Lakers into legitimate players. And it's great. It's fantastic to see.
Yeah. There was also Gary Payton II that went to Washington. He hasn't got paid, but he's managed to get another NBA opportunity this past season from South Bay.
Yeah, repping his dad's jersey here.
I actually didn't know that. So what we'll do is we'll round things up. So it's not about a player. It's about the situation that the Lakers find themselves in, and us as fans. So, Western Conference Finals, first time in 10 years. There was all that hurt throughout the decade.
Yeah.
Last season, they failed to make the playoffs completely. That was with LeBron James. This season has been such a roller coaster. Obviously, in this time of success, in this time, we need to remember what we've lost. Obviously, we lost a huge part of the Lakers family in Kobe and Gianna, and obviously the other victims in that accident. So it's quite easy to run away with excitement, but we need to remember, obviously, the course of the season. It's been, I feel like we've laughed, we've cried, we've been excited, we've been frustrated. Just as, the year turned, we obviously had the tragic incident, and then just as we kind of not getting past it, but we're starting to cope with it, COVID hits, the season stops. And then just as we get back into the bubble, we start not necessarily performing well, but basketball's back. Obviously, we have the social justice issues, which halts the season. It's been a very, very long road, but we're now in the Western Conference Finals. We won't say what happens here. We'll wait and see. Obviously, there's a Game 7 between the Nuggets and Clippers, but what do you make of the road that it's taken to get to where the Lakers are today, and how much does it mean?
I think, especially for the players now, I know that Kobe Bryant is never too far away from their mind. Like LeBron on his kind of injured finger, like he's not seriously injured, but on his injured finger has 24 in it. So you can guarantee that like they're never that far away from. Him and Gianna are never that far away from their mind. Like even, I think in JaVale McGee's last vlog, when they're going into the. No, after the win, they just put their hands up and said 1, 2, 3, Kobe. Like I guarantee.
Yeah, I think they do it before games as well. Mamba, I think.
Yeah, I just think it's never far away from their mind. Like it would have been very easy and for the Lakers as a team to crumble. Like if you lose a loved one, it's easy just to crumble. Yeah, it's easy to just be like, I can't do this anymore. It's too hard. I need to kind of regroup myself and kind of come back maybe at a later date. Whereas the Lakers, to a certain extent, weren't afforded that. I suppose with COVID, even then, that's just another thing that hammered us. But it just seems like there were punches after punch after punch for the Lakers and for the NBA and for the community in general. But yeah, they've kind of rose above it, kind of said to themselves, this is bigger than all of us. They went into the bubble to kind of shine lives and Black Lives Matter. I know that all teams have, but the Lakers have been quite active themselves in that regard as well. And they are gone into this playoffs, 1, to win a championship for the Lakers, but 2, to kind of do it for Kobe, do it for Gianna, and another for the Black Lives Matter movement. And I think that's what's very close to their mind each time they kind of take the floor. Like this is a spotlight that's being shone on us. We want to represent ourselves as best we possibly can. We want to show that we can overcome some of the terrible things that's happened for this franchise and kind of rise above it. And nothing would be a better tribute for Kobe Bryant than for them to fight through adversity, fight through injury, fight through kind of people second-guessing them. Like when no one thought Kobe could come back when he tore his Achilles. To a certain extent, he was never the Kobe Bryant he was before. But again, he was getting much older in age. But he was able to fight back. He was able to kind of come back and kind of show the world that he can do it again. And I think the Lakers can do that as well. They can overcome all the adversity of people just second-guessing them and doubting them and saying LeBron is washed. AD isn't the second superstar that like you can build around. They have completely shown the world that is absolute bullshit. LeBron has looked as good as he's ever looked this season. AD should have been the Defensive Player of the Year, and I don't care what anyone says. He can guard 1 through 5 comfortably. And the Lakers as a whole, the one thing I would give credit above all else to this Lakers squad, they made a concerted effort to really kind of come together and as a team. They wanted the chemistry to be there from day one. They wanted each and every player to feel like they are a valuable part of the squad. And it's easy for the likes of like Jared Dudley or Taylor Horton Tucker or Quinn Cook coming off the bench and feeling like they don't matter. They do. There's times like throughout the season where they've been valuable to us, and they've been, if they're not valuable on the court, they're valuable off, and that speaks a lot to the kind of their character as players. And even JaVale and Dwight Howard this series, they could have easily just lost their head and been like, this is crap, I'm not playing any minutes. But they didn't. They're the first ones to kind of cheer on their fellow teammates when something happens. They're the first ones to kind of pick LeBron up off the floor for like if he's got knocked in his ass. They're the first kind of people that just kind of show up and are just want to be a good teammates. And that's all we can ask for them. The Lakers as a whole, they've been amazing this entire season, and they've been a credit to kind of, in my opinion, to the basketball community. They've overcome a lot of adversity, as well as a lot of other franchises have, and they've just kind of shone during it and risen above it. So fair play to the Lakers, and it really makes me proud to be a Lakers fan this season. And I know I wouldn't begrudge any other team winning if they deserve to win, but Jesus, this would be an amazing time for the Lakers to win. I think it wouldn't heal the wounds that are there at the moment with Kobe and Giannis. That'll never heal. We'll always mourn them, and a championship is never going to bring them back. But it can give us kind of a bit of a boost. It can kind of...
It'll be the perfect tribute.
Yeah, give a wind in our sails, kind of push us on to next season, and kind of give us a little bit of we can relax for a second. Yeah. But again, it'll never bring them back, but we can just hope that they're looking down and kind of smiling at this.
Yeah, definitely. I think they've it's a brotherhood, this Lakers team.
Yeah.
You know, they've all got each other's backs. They're all aware of the fantastic, historic franchise that they're representing.
Yeah.
You know, they're all stars in their role, really, right down to Quinn Cook and Jared Dudley. They're all in it for the greater good. They've all got the same common goal. You know, to reach the Western Conference Finals at the start of the season. Well, as the season was progressing, I put this down as the minimum expectation.
Yeah.
So obviously, I'd love for them to go on and win the whole thing, but for them to have actually gelled together and to reach the Western Conference Final is a huge achievement.
Yeah.
You know, our expectations are way beyond, you know, this. We want to rip past whoever we play in the next round and go through to the finals and get through there and lift the whole thing, you know, win the whole thing. But, you know, that might happen, that might not happen. There's some fantastic teams. There's obviously the Heat and the Celtics coming out of the East who can't be overlooked. You know, they're two very worthy teams of being where they are. And whoever comes out of the East is going to be a huge challenge in the finals, much like whoever comes out of the Game 7 matchup between the Nuggets and the Clippers will be, you know, a really tough matchup too. So I think it's fantastic that we're in the Western Conference Finals. We've got a few days now to digest it up until Friday, Saturday morning for us overseas. And I think it's time to just enjoy it. You know, it's the first time in 10 years. 10 years ago, I was kind of in my infancy of being a Laker fan, kind of got first introduced to the team.
Yeah.
So this is kind of my first, you know, bit of exposure to the success, being a die-hard fan as invested as I am, and not to mention covering the team and being as invested in the team as I am. It's the first time I've experienced that, you know, and it's a great time to be a Laker fan. It's a great time to cover the Lakers. It's you know, whatever you are affiliated with the Lakers, it's a great time to just be looking on, even if you're not a fan, but you know, you appreciate what they're doing, the basketball they play.
Yeah.
You know, it's a great time, and it's a great time for basketball as well. There's a lot of fantastic teams that are due, you know, to come back to the top. When in the past few years it's just been Golden State Cavs, Golden State Cavs, Golden State Cavs. So it's really refreshing. So yeah, that's everything I have to say really, and I think that's kind of, we've come to the end of the episode. Before we go, have you got anything else you want to add on to what we were just talking about, or have you said everything?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with like everything you're saying, and I think to a certain extent, I see Rich, one of the Boston Celtics fans, in the comment section there. But I think more than anything, I don't think a team will, if the Lakers did win this season, which I'm like, touch wood, if it happens, that'd be amazing. I think after the year the Lakers have had, they wouldn't begrudge us this year. I don't think they would. Like, I think I'd hope that if we won this season, and we worked our asses off, we worked hard for it, and we pushed, and we won the season. We did it for Kobe. I hope the other teams wouldn't be like, oh, it was just a kind of wasn't a real season. It was interrupted.
It doesn't count. Yeah,
it doesn't count. I don't want to hear that. If any other team won, like if we lost to another team in the finals, I wouldn't begrudge them if they busted their ass to get there and they won. So I hope they give us the same kind of respect.
Yeah, definitely. And whoever wins it, especially in the scenario that we're in with the bubble, will be very worthy winners. And, you know, it's in some ways it's the hardest championship that these players will ever win, whoever goes ahead and lifts the trophy. But we'll leave it there. Thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate it. It's good every single time. I hope everyone enjoys listening. Do you want to, again, give people a bit of a shout out where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Jonathan K NBA, JONATHAN K NBA.
Yeah, and thanks to everyone checking out the show, whether you're watching this live now on Instagram Live, whether you're watching it back on IGTV, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on the podcast platforms, you know, after we finish recording. Thanks to everyone for checking out the show. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to tell some of your Laker friends about it as well. Get the word out there. We're going to do more of this, and we're going to push it up to the next level as well. We've got a few plans coming. Jonathan's been a huge part of that as well. You can find The Late Late Show on all major podcast platforms. Please follow and, where possible, leave a 5-star review on anything, you know, recommended, whatever. Try and help us out. That would be much appreciated. Be sure to follow Lakers UK over on Twitter and Instagram under LA Lakers UK, and check out our website, LakersUK.com. Our newly revamped website, probably the best way to say it. Kind of giving it a little bit of a tidy up. There's kind of a new look on there. Be sure to check it out. There's plenty of new articles going on there as well from myself and Jonathan and some other people that help out. So, before I go, one last shout out to Baseline Leeds, the basketball shop in my hometown of Leeds in the north of England. Go and check them out on Instagram and Twitter under Baseline Leeds. Check out the website as well. They've got a lot of good stuff on there. So yeah, I've been your host, Matt from Lakers UK. Been here with Jonathan, and we'll catch you next time, guys.